My name is Aaron Sandiford. I'm a political reporter at the Nebraska Examiner, and this is our new podcast on Nebraska's 2024 Senate races, Picking Corn. We are coming to you this morning from the College of Journalism studios at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, where your midlife host is pursuing a master's degree. Our guest today is Nebraska's senior senator, Deb Fischer. She has spent 3 decades in public service, starting as a school board member and state senator in Valentine. Today, Fischer serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee, the Commerce Committee, the Ag Committee, the Appropriations Committee, the Ethics Committee, and the Rules Committee, just a few. Senator, welcome. Thanks for joining us on campus today.
Thank you, Aaron. Good to be here.
What's the biggest change you've seen in public office, from local school board meetings to the classified briefing room in the Senate?
Oh, gosh. When you look at local service, I think that is seriously the closest to the people. You are in your community, you're going to the post office, you're going to the grocery store. So serving on a school board for about 20 years, obviously people had access to me. And I think that is valuable, not just for the people in Nebraska, the people in my district at the time, but it was so valuable for me. That hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. You know, here in Nebraska, I think we still need to be out there and travel the state and be able to shake people's hands and look them in the eye when we answer their questions. Because that's how we stay informed as elected representatives, whether it's as a school board member or a United States senator. You know, you and I were just visiting about my first race, where I traveled 40-some thousand miles in the primary and a total of, I think it was 72,000 miles. And that was
that's a lot of windshield
That was
time.
While going through 2 legislative sessions and 1 special session as well. And I didn't miss a day of work. So it's a big state. I had a full understanding of what's needed to keep in touch with people, to have your fingers on the pulse of what Nebraskans think. And I continue to do that. So that hasn't changed. What has changed is social media and the way that you can have rumors just go on fire and spread quickly, and it's harder to be able to get not just your point of view out, but the facts out, because people have so much access to anything that's on social media. So that again causes issues. It makes it difficult to be able to get facts out so that you can have a civil conversation nowadays, because people get very emotional when they hear some of these rumors that are pretty wild at times. So that's probably the biggest change we've seen.
Well, you talked a little bit about your time in the Nebraska legislature. What did that experience teach you that you've taken to Washington? And what has Washington taught you that maybe didn't translate after Lincoln?
You know, working in the Nebraska legislature is a unique experience because we are nonpartisan, officially nonpartisan. We're one chamber. And so personalities matter. Relationships matter. To be able to build those relationships to get big policy passed. And we were successful doing that. As that translates over to Congress, I think in Congress, it is obviously a focus on what is best for this country, what is best for your state. And so you have priorities with that to be able to craft legislation and move it forward. It's hard work. Obviously, the issues are huge. They're very vital. It's international. So as you work on legislation, you have to take all of that into consideration. One thing at the national level that I still have to remind myself of is that there are 2 houses. And a lot of times, this sounds kind of silly, but a lot of times when I'm able to get a bill passed in the Senate, in my office, we celebrate, and then I'll have a staff member say, oh, now it goes to the House. And I go, the House.
Right.
So that's, I have to keep reminding myself that there are two houses in the United States Congress, which I think is a good thing. I think it's a good thing to be able to have those two separate houses in order to have a fuller discussion, a fuller consideration on policy issues that not only affect our state, not only affect our country, but because of the United States' position in the world as a world leader, it affects the international community as well.
Understood. And I know you've had a busy week in Washington with these negotiations on potential aid for Ukraine and Israel. What's the holdup? I understand the Senate Republicans are trying to negotiate border security into the aid bill. What specifically do you want changed and why?
We're looking at a national security supplemental. The president, when he first sent it to Congress, he had Ukraine, which included munitions for our own base here in this country to make sure we have the production capacity that we need. And that's something I've led on for 2 years. It has Israel in it, which is an emergency, and also Taiwan. The president also had in border security and then pulled that. Border security is extremely important. It's the number one issue we're facing. We're seeing 12,000 people entering this country every day that have been detained and then they are released to enter the country. There has to be policy reforms to address that. In 2010, I think the total for the year on the asylum, the parole part of it, was only 20-some thousand. We're doing that in 2 days now. And the infrastructure of this country can't handle it. I look at it from a national security point of view. That's why this is a security supplemental. So come on, this is definitely a national security issue. We have to know who's coming into this country. We have to be able to monitor them. We've had over 200 individuals on the terrorist watch group who've been detained. How many getaways have there been? We just had a report come out from the Strategic Posture Congressional Commission that laid out how underprepared our country is when it comes to our own security. We now have 2 peer competitors in the nuclear realm with Russia and China. We are underprepared, and having a chaotic, open border highlights that and makes it much more dangerous for our homeland. We've had the mayor of New York City say enough. That should be enough to get everybody's attention that we have to have that included. So Republicans, we didn't vote to proceed to a shell bill. We don't even see language on this yet. It was only a shell bill. And that's to show really the resolve we have that it is important that we look at securing our own border. This is not immigration reform. This is national security. This is the security for our country.
And, you talked a little bit about this tangentially. You said that this border part does not address immigration reform. What does need to be done to address immigration in this country more broadly? What changes would you like to see in the system?
Dick Durbin has worked on immigration for 20-some years. And if you've heard some of his comments, he has said, this is an issue that just doesn't come together. We saw with President Obama when he was in the White House and they had the Senate and the House, Democrats couldn't agree. They could not reach a consensus on what to do with immigration. I believe that you have to take it step by step. And it always, with me, begins with securing the border to make sure that we have the capabilities to know who's entering this country and what they're bringing in with them. You can get a tactical nuclear weapon in a backpack. We have to be able to have a secure border, number one, and then look at making changes to legal immigration. I have business people talk to me all the time about needing workers and being able to make it easier just with work visas to come over as seasonal workers, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's as construction workers or roofers. We look at the university. We're here in the journalism department. We look at the university. I've helped the university be able to keep some of their researchers here, because when research is interrupted, it's lost.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we have that. So I think it all goes back to, with me and with many, is that we have to have a secure border.
In terms of national security, you've spent much of your Senate career focused on national defense. Why does Ukraine aid matter to the people in Nebraska? And how does European security impact national security?
Ukrainians are willing to fight Russia's aggression. We don't see that in every country, where the people of that country step up and fight. This is an example of Russia being an aggressor, being brutal, trying to reestablish the empire. And it is my belief and the belief of the majority that this doesn't stop with Ukraine. We have seen Russia in Ukraine before, and they will continue to be the aggressors in that part of the world. We're members of NATO. We have many countries now that have joined NATO. So you have the Baltics, you have Poland, and I have been to those countries. They want the United States to be involved because they feel that keeps their country safe. And we have an obligation there under Article 5 to be involved. With Ukraine, if we can provide them with what they need in a timely manner, to give them the equipment, the resources that they need to fight Russia's aggression, that will save American lives in the long run. Because if Russia continues their aggression, we will be involved in the future with our men and women on the ground.
And that's one of the things. I mean, obviously, even in your own party, there's been some people that disagree with the investment in Ukraine. What do you tell those folks when you're traveling the state and they ask you, why this, why now?
I think you just have to be able to explain it. That if the aggression isn't stopped in Ukraine, it's going to continue. We have a world now to me, it's very, very plain that we have aggressors, we have dictatorships, whether it's Russia, whether it's China. And if America doesn't stand up, they won't stop. When we look at China, the president of China has been very, very clear that his goal, which he made clear to his country, was that by 2027, he wanted the capability to take Taiwan. We need to believe it when people tell us who they are. We need to believe it when countries show us who they are. And we need to make commitments to the people of the United States that we're going to stand up. And
for folks who don't understand the Taiwan issue, obviously you and I have talked about this a long time ago about microchip manufacturing and how many products are tied to what's built on the island right now. For Americans, for regular workaday Americans who maybe don't understand why the Taiwan Strait matters, what do you tell them?
I say it matters. It matters. We're tied together in this world.
I jokingly say, do you like your refrigerator?
Yeah, if you like your phone, whatever. China is a peer nuclear competitor. They have a nuclear triad. A decade ago, most people believed that China was developing nuclear weapons for only defensive purposes. They are not. They are also very aggressive. They are building islands with airstrips in the area. So I think it's naive. I think it's naive to believe that we can be isolationists. It reminds me a lot of pre-World War I, pre-World War II. I'm a history major.
Mm-hmm.
But I also believe America first. But to me, America first means we secure our country. We make sure that our homeland is going to be secure. To do that, we have to have allies. We have to have partners. There's strength in that. There's strength in NATO. There's strength in AUKUS, which is the new formation we're seeing with the United Kingdom, Australia, and the United States as well. There's strength in that. And I believe America first means that we have a strong America. We have a determined America. We have a firm America who provides for our own citizens here at home, but also is involved in the world. Because when America is involved in the world is a safer place.
Well, one of the places right now, and this will be the last stop on our foreign tour, that is not very safe right now is the Israeli and Gazan war. Talk a little bit, if you can, about the Israeli aid and why it matters. Same question.
Here in Nebraska, I see tremendous support for Israel. I think there is a very firm understanding that this was on October 7th. That was a terrorist attack. Brutal, horrific. We haven't seen anything like that. And Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend their people, defend their country, and eliminate terrorists. I can't imagine if anyone would have said to us after 9/11, oh no, you need to sit back. You need to take a pause. We need to make sure aid gets in. Israel has a right, and I support their right. I'm giving them time, and I believe in giving them the resources to wipe out the terrorists.
And on the other side, I mean, obviously there's a humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip among civilians who are not combatants. How do you make sure, if you care about terrorism, if you care about the potential for long-term struggle in the region that has had it for centuries, how do you balance that need to allow Israel to do what it needs to do, but to still offset some of the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip?
I don't know any other country besides Israel that warns a civilian population that they are going to be coming in, taking military action. I don't know any other country that does that. Israel does it. They've done it before. They're doing it now. They have allowed convoys to go in to provide aid to the Palestinians, and it's Hamas that has broken the agreements. It is Hamas who broke the last ceasefire when they invaded on October 7th.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're proudest of during your time in the Senate. What do you, when you list your accomplishments, what are the first 3 or 4 things that you talk about?
I kind of group it. I group it by subject matter. I'm very proud of securing this nation in my work on the Armed Services Committee and on the Appropriations Committee. That is the first duty and responsibility of a federal government, is to protect this country. I'm very proud of building Nebraska, to be able to work on infrastructure, continue my work there, whether it's roads and bridges or whether it's broadband deployment across our state, looking at airports, being able to look at our water infrastructure and provide communities, no matter the size, and a runway at Offutt. That was one of the first things that I went to see, was the runway at Offutt. And to be able to have that completely redone, working on it every year since 2013, I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the Omaha VA. That was something else I started in 2013 to be able to get that done. The Lincoln VA, worked really hard on that to be able to do that. the levees that protected the drinking water for 2/3 of the population of the state. Projects out there that I'm very proud of. I'm proud of being able to work with Senator Schatz to get a bill passed, a 3-digit number, so that domestic abuse victims are able to get help there. I'm happy to work and get passed with Senator Duckworth. Bill to have a mother's room at airports, So why, it's important to focus on these big issues. When I say we can still get things done in the Senate in a bipartisan way, there's any number of issues that we've been able to get passed there. Obviously agriculture, economic engine of the state of Nebraska. Been a leader on a number of issues there, working hard to get year-round sale of E15, a cattle transparency and market reform bill we're working on, but also to take on the EPA with Waters of the U.S. I've led that since I've been in the Senate as well. Waters of the U.S., the 30 by 30.
When you look back, where would you say you've fallen short? What were some things you were working on that you really wanted to get across the finish line, but you didn't?
Well, I've been working 10 years on the year-round sale of E15, which would mean a lot to this state. We still aren't there yet, so we're still falling short. But I can tell you that this year we have a great coalition. It's amazing that I got big oil on this. When I have the American Petroleum Institute, who haven't always been huge fans of mine, with my support for ethanol here in biofuels in the state of Nebraska, they are on board with this. You chip away. It's like when I was in the legislature to find new funding for roads in the state of Nebraska, the Build Nebraska Act. I worked for about 4 years, traveled the state, held meetings, came up with my own idea on how we could get that funding to increase development of infrastructure roads here in the state of Nebraska.
And for folks who don't know, that was a dedication of part of the sales tax, a portion of the sales tax toward roads and bridges.
Yes. So, we thought outside the box, got great support for it, got it done. And we're seeing the fruits of that labor. I remember when I introduced the bill and I was able to get so many co-sponsors, but I had a lot of lobbyists out there. I guess after I presented it, when I left the room, they said, "Oh, she's never going to get it done." Well, I got it done.
Well, and let's talk about looking back a little bit. You fought through a 3-way Republican primary 2 terms ago to reach the Senate and beat Democrat Bob Kerrey, a former governor and senator. Now you could face a general election opponent running as a nonpartisan, Dan Osborne, Omaha labor leader. How would that race be different than what you've already been through?
I run my own race. Nebraskans know who I am. I travel the state. Work hard. We have our campaign is set up. We have great grassroots. I have county chairs in every county. Republicans and Democrats are my county chairs. We've raised money. We continue to raise money, which is important to get your message out. But I think basically Nebraskans know who I am. I work hard. I'm honest. I look people in the eye. I'm available, and I will continue to do that. I've said I run my own race. I don't worry about opponents, and that's what I'm doing this time as well.
How do you view your opponent and his work as a union leader?
I don't know my opponent. I don't know anything about him. I don't know if he's filed yet or anything. I have been supportive of unions, and I have support from unions. The firefighters, those guys are fabulous. When I was first year in the Senate, I had the firefighters come and visit me. And I love telling this story because I think it applies to any group, any person. who comes to see me, and we talked about things. And I said, "Can I come and visit a fire station?" And they said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." And I said, "Can I ride in a fire truck?" "Oh, yeah, that'd be fine." Well, I went. I grew up here in Lincoln, and so I went to my neighborhood fire station on Cotner and A Street there, and we went for a ride in the fire truck, and then sat down, and they were going through some issues, and they brought up one, and I said, "Oh gosh," that they supported, and I said, "Oh gosh, I think I might have just voted against that in committee," and I had a staff member with me, and I said, "Dusty, please check and." With my policy person in D.C. on the Commerce Committee, and let's see how I did on that. And I did. And so I told him, I said, "Why?" But it ended up we were able to change it, and we got it done. We got it done for him. And I said to him, "Why didn't you come to me?" I said, when we met, I told you, talk to me. Come to me. We can work together on things. And they said, "We didn't think you'd listen."
Mm. And obviously, you've probably heard the last couple of weeks about this left-leaning pollster, Change Research, that found Nebraskans open to considering a third-party candidacy. That poll, done largely online through social media and cell phones, found a closer than expected race between you and Osborne, although it showed him slightly leading a head-to-head despite most people not knowing who Osborne is. What do you and your political team make of its findings, if anything at all?
It's a fake poll. When I ran in 2012, a poll came out in the Omaha World Herald a couple of weeks before the general election.
My former employer.
Yes. Yeah. It was a bad poll, too. And it said that I think it said Bob Kerrey was within 3 points. This
I remember
a week or so before the election. I won by 16 points. In my last election, Democrats like to quote another poll that was a fake poll, and it showed that I had like a 30% favorability rating. I won by 20 points. Now, I'm not being cocky about this, but I am. I recognize when polls are fake. And I am confident about my reelection. As I said, we have support from over 1,000 individuals who have signed up to endorse me already. We have county chairs in every county. We are ahead of where I was in my last election with fundraising, and just great support all across Nebraska. I'm out all the time. I talk to Nebraskans all the time, and I know that I have the trust and I have the support from the vast majority of people in this state.
On taxes, your opponent has talked a little bit about wanting to target more tax relief at middle-class Nebraskans and kind of the classic raise taxes on or make sure corporations and higher earners pay more in taxes. You voted for the Trump tax cuts that lowered taxes on the highest earners and other Americans. What's your tax approach in a third term, and how would you offset any cuts?
Now, the tax reform bill that was passed in 2017 provided tax relief across the board, and especially to middle income and lower income people. Single women did better under that. We expanded the child tax credit. I was able to get a bill into that tax reform on paid family leave that would help lower income people, mostly hourly workers and small businesses, take advantage of a tax credit to provide paid family leave. So I would hold that up and say, my record, whether it's at the federal level or the state level, where I was a leader on property tax relief, lays it out very openly that I support tax relief across the board. We've saw obviously revenue grow, but we saw investment grow as well. We want to make sure we continue to have investment in this country, whether it's a mom and pop store on Main Street or whether it's at a company, a large company that's going to do more research and development. That's important for an economy to grow.
Speaking of a third term, you said when you first ran for the Senate that you only wanted to serve 2. Why are you now running for a third? What have you learned? Why then?
I've supported term limits. I served under term limits in the Nebraska legislature. But that's not how the Senate works. And Nebraska is at a disadvantage if we don't have seniority. As I've said, I'm second in seniority on armed services. I'm the ranking member on the Rules Committee. But seniority matters in the Senate. I am on more committees than any other senator, 4 big policy committees, probably the biggest policy committees when you look at armed services, appropriations, commerce, ag, and all 4 of those are tremendously important to the state of Nebraska. Term limits work when they apply to everyone. In the United States Congress, they don't apply to everyone. And as I said, Nebraska has been at a disadvantage in the past when we have members who only serve 1 term or even 2 terms. Republicans were able to build that seniority faster than Democrats because you can only be a committee chairman for 6 years or a ranking member for 6 years. So there's a bigger turnover. Members have more opportunity to get into leadership. And I've been able to take advantage of that opportunity on the committees that I'm on.
What would you want to accomplish in a third term? What are some of your goals?
I want to continue a lot of the work that we're doing, again, to stress the importance of the security of this country, to be able to recognize the importance of a farm bill for the state of Nebraska, obviously for ag producers, but also the nutrition parts in the farm bill. Sometimes I get frustrated because opponents will say, well, Republicans don't care about kids. And it's like, come on, give me a break. I vote for every farm bill. I vote for all those nutrition programs. I vote for the SNAP program. I supported school lunches in the Nebraska legislature to make sure that we have that. So sometimes when the perception's out there, it's, again, going back to the beginning of our conversation, you have to be able to get the facts out and go, come on, people, I've got a record. Look at my record. I work across the aisle and support these programs, and I'll continue to do that. I want to be able to focus on families, which I do now with the paid family leave, with child tax credit. I want to make sure mom and dads can take care of their kids, that they have a brighter future, that they feel that they're safe, that they have opportunities, that they're going to be able to see their kids have a better life than they have. That's what I think all of us want. We want our kids and our grandchildren to be able to have a better life.
You mentioned the farm bill. What are you hearing from farmers and ranchers that they need in that next farm bill?
Safety nets. That's number one. Crop insurance, number one, to make sure we have safety nets for farmers. It's a risky business. I'm pushing to streamline disaster aid, to have that included in it. I'm pushing to get precision agriculture, have opportunities for smaller farmers and ranchers to be able to access all that really cool technology that's out there so that they can be able to take advantage of that and decrease inputs and have better bottom line then to be successful. To look at conservation programs that are going to remain voluntary, where we recognize the stewardship of our ag producers, the people who live on the land. We recognize that they make the land better, and they do that in a voluntary way. We all want to make sure we take care of our land, take care of our water. Those are unique valuable resources that we have here in the state of Nebraska. And it is extremely important for the well-being of our state that we continue to encourage that.
Well, and you've now served at all three levels of government. Talk to me a little bit about what you think the federal government can and should do to help rural Nebraska fight a declining population in some spots and aging in others.
I think that's best done at the local level.
Now, you mentioned the infrastructure bill. Now, obviously, you and I have talked about this before. You faced some pushback in your own party from former President Donald Trump when you supported that infrastructure bill, but you still thought it was important. What is it that people, including the former president, missed about that bill and why it was important?
Well, I can just tell you why I thought it was important.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a responsibility of the federal government. It's looking at those big projects, whether they're dams, water infrastructure, dredging the Missouri River, helping with levees to stop the flooding along the Missouri where we see such damage, where Offutt Air Force Base saw such damage. Those big projects. To be able to kickstart some of the infrastructure that we need as we look at lane capacity in cities. You know, we have the elevated Dodge Freeway in Omaha. You know, things like that are going to have to continue as we see movement to more urban areas of our state, but also to the country. Those are ways that we invest in the future of our state and we invest in the future of our country. Those are investments. And also it's important, I would say to people, that we bring some of our tax dollars back to the state of Nebraska in order to make those investments.
Talk to me a little if you can. I mean, obviously, the Republican Party nationally and in Nebraska has seen some changes in recent years. Some people have described that shift as populism. Many pin it to Trump and some of his support and the new people he brought to the party. What does being a Republican mean today? And where do you see yourself fitting into that party moving forward?
I'm a conservative Nebraska Republican. That's how I define myself. That means I believe in limited government. I believe in peace through strength. I believe in making investments that will care for our families and continue to grow our economies so that our people and our families can prosper. That's how I define being a Republican.
What role does your personal faith play in your political and policy decision-making?
Oh, it's at the core of who I am.
What steps do you take to make sure that you also represent Nebraskans who believe in other faiths and worldviews, or no faith at all?
I show respect to everyone. That's being Nebraska nice. We have manners. We should all show respect to everyone. We should be able to have civil conversations. We should be able to disagree and still be civil with one another. I don't think there's too many questions by Nebraskans on where I stand on issues. I have been upfront about it. Some people in public office, you think they're one person and they're elected and they turn out to be somebody else. That has not been the case with me.
Who is Deb Fischer away from all of this?
I'm a good time. I think I'm funny. I'm horrible. I cannot tell a joke to save my life, but I'm a loving mother and grandmother. I'm a very loyal friend. I enjoy what I do. In fact, the advice I give to students is you should figure out what you love and then do what you love because you'll be happy and you'll be successful.
What would your worst enemy say about you that would be true?
I'm tenacious.
Thank you again for joining us today, Senator. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Picking Corn.